Hey, it's Ryan from That Car Show, and it's going to be a different kind of show today. Last night, Dan, Lindsay, and I sat down, recorded a great cruise show. We found out later we had some issues with audio and just didn't feel right posting the show as is. So this morning, I sat down with a friend of the show, Ryan Sabga. Ryan is an internationally regarded Ferrari expert. People with money come to him and he helps them find the right car. He's also got a great collection of his own. So we sat out in his garage as the snow fell here in Denver, and it just shot the shit for an hour, and I think we got a really good episode. So this one's audio only. We'll be back next week with a regular video show, the three of us. But in the meantime, please enjoy this conversation with Ferrari whisperer Ryan Sabga. Hey, it's Ryan here from That Car Show, and I was going to meet my buddy Ryan Sabga for coffee this morning, as we do most Fridays, and it's kind of a weird wintry day here, so we figured let's have a little fireside chat in his garage. So I've got a couple to-go coffees. We're huddled around this isn't quite a campfire, but it's a heater.
It's a space heater.
A space heater, you know. Just pretend it's open flame, and we're in his beautiful garage. I'm looking around, a couple beautiful Ducatis. I don't know the first thing about bikes, but they're beautiful, and at least 4 Ferraris. So what are we looking at, Ryan? And welcome, by the way.
Yes, thanks. It's good to be here. The 4 Ferraris that are here with us today, because a couple of are out for service. The 4 that are here are, you have one of the 308 GTB Group 4 cars they made for tarmac rallies in the late 70s and early 80s. This one is a 1981. One of the 19 with full FIA HTP paperwork, eligible for all the world's great events. You've got my manual Ferrari 360 that I converted to a Challenge Stradale years ago, when you can still buy all the Challenge Stradale parts and retrofit them to a 360. You have my very, very late 575 Maranello, which is spec'd, in my mind, to perfection, including the ever famous Fiorano handling package and the carbon package, and my favorite colors, Nero Daytona, which is a metallic black over Cuyo, which is like a darker tan, a baseball glove.
Yeah,
and then
beautiful.
And then last car here next to you is my also very, very late 1999 end of the run 355 Berlinetta in manual, black on black, fitted with some choice Challenge parts, including Challenge wheels, but very much a street car.
Yeah, and a couple cars that aren't here. Can we mention those too?
Yeah, the cars that are not here, I have a 512 BBI that is out for mechanical refurbishment. It is that time in that car's life. It's in Canada with the famous Paul Newman, not the actor, but the famous boxer restoration specialist. That should be back in a couple weeks. And then I have a Ferrari F40 that is up at Maranello Motorworks, completing a restoration. That should be back here relatively soon too. And that completes my 6th Ferrari garage.
Yeah, just a casual little collection. And,
wow.
You know, it's just, you never know it walking by, you know. But
That's how it's supposed to be.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And there's this amazing collection here. And what are the bikes? Because I don't know much about bikes, but I know.
So I only have a couple bikes here, but I have a lot of bikes. I have mostly ex-Ducati factory race bikes, mostly 916 era bikes. But I have some fairly famous bikes, including Alessandro Gramini's 1996 race-winning Fast 5 Faraci 916 Corsa.
Oh.
I have Scott Russell's very famous 2002 HMC Ducati 996 RS from Daytona 200 that obviously had a mishap on the restart. Well, I got that bike and restored it, and I run that at the track. I have 3 of the 2002 748 RSs. There's 12 of those. I have 3, so a quarter of them. That's one of them right here. This was a backup. This was a backup bike for the Ducati race team.
Yeah, you take this out for coffee, like. I mean, it's just
no lights, turn signals, no any of that stuff. But boy, it's really fun on the track. Cool. Yep, and then that's a fully restored 900 Super Sport. Next to you that is has a bunch of extras on it, but that is my bike primarily for touring,
which is also beautiful. And bikes, you're a former professional bicycle racer.
Yes, cyclist.
Yes, that's the word.
Yes, not motorcycles, but
yeah.
you know, there's a lot of a lot of ex-pro cyclists when they retire, like, I mean, really love motorcycles and cars. And when you retire, you have time and hopefully, if you play your cards right, a little bit of money to pursue some of that stuff. And so, like, I'm living out some of that. I mean, I try to. The nice thing about motorbikes, especially at the track, if you do a lot of track stuff, you have to stay pretty fit. And so it's a good motivator to me to keep going to the gym and keep my weight in a reasonable place. And all that. So
Nothing looks goofier than a fat man on a sport bike, right? So,
well, the sport bikes don't like it either. So it's a two-way street.
Well, and we met, of course, on the Colorado Grand, which is near and dear to both our hearts.
Yeah.
And it's probably 3-4 years ago when we met. We've gotten to be buds, and you have been a part of the Grand both as a participant, but also as an advisor to people with these amazing cars.
Yeah, well, the Grand is, as you said, near and dear to my heart as it is to yours. I think being a Colorado person, the Colorado Grand is not only, I think, the premier vintage car rally in the United States and arguably in the world, but it really showcases a lot of the highlights of our great state.
Yeah.
It's at a great time of year. We go to amazing places. Tom and his whole staff really do an amazing job of putting on a world-class event. I've been very fortunate to do it several times. I did it in our Carrera RS a few years ago, when that was the special car for the Grand. And then last year, I got to do it with a friend in a Ferrari 250 short wheelbase comp car, a car that got 7th overall at Le Mans 1960. That was an amazing experience. I'm very fortunate. And yes, as you mentioned, yes, I help some people, some of them Grand participants, build their vintage car collection.
Yeah.
You know, I worked very hard in my working life to acquire the cars that I have. I have my dream cars, which are the cars that really matter to me. And, you know, for lack of a better word, I'm sort of like tapped out on space and bandwidth to keep buying more. I don't have any desire to really add. I have everything I've always wanted, but you learn so many things along the way, and the exposure to different people and different things is a great part of the journey. And I have a lot of people who are like, hey, you've learned so much. You're not buying for you anymore. Will you help me get stuff? And it's funny because sometimes people think about it as, I would like you to help me get the best of the best in this incredible collection. And that is a good way to look at it. But I think the more important way that people don't look at it is, and this is where I think I'm probably really good, is I keep them out of harm's way.
Yeah.
Keep them from buying things that you think you're buying X, but this is really Y. And it would be a mistake to purchase it. And, you know, I obviously walk them through and show them the things that I'm seeing. And I know that for the few people that I've chosen to help, I have made a tremendous impact on their financial well-being by keeping them out of harm's way. Because I've helped them avoid some serious mistakes.
And you've got an interesting background in is the word verification or
authentication.
Authentication world.
Yes. Well, yes, I built several companies that specialize in authentication, including for some very famous, that shall not be named, realms of motorsport. Let's say the highest realm of motorsport uses authentication features that I invented and developed and produced for them in order to keep teams and competitors from cheating.
Yeah.
And but it's also extended into collectibles, and so yes, have a long track record of helping people in the various collectibles industries, not cars necessarily, but things like sports cards and trading cards and other pop culture collectibles. What is real, what's not real, and help not only verify that, but make sure that consumers know what they are buying is what they are expecting to buy.
Yeah.
And so that's all been a part of me getting here.
How big of a deal is fraud in these worlds? I mean, it's
much bigger than you would think.
Much bigger than you think.
Yeah, much bigger than you would think. And it's kind of a dirty secret because, look, if word gets out that there's a lot of fraud and a lot of fakes, then it really scares away people from buying, and it prevents a big barricade of people from entering these hobbies. And, you know, these are fun hobbies, right? They're supposed to be spreading joy and fun and things that honestly like affected us all as kids, that make us happy. If it becomes a scary prospect or a scary hobby, then fewer people enter, and if fewer people enter, the hobby over time will get smaller. And my feeling is, if there's something that brings us joy, wouldn't it be cool if it brought other people joy? And so my intent with a lot of this is to make these potentially scary hobbies more accessible to people who have the passion and the enthusiasm to get into it. Same thing with cars. Like when I help these guys with their cars, it's like, hey, you'd be a great fit for this hobby. You bring a lot of joy and passion and things that I would love to see more of. If I can keep you from harm's way and have you have a good time and not get burned and actually get a lot of enjoyment from the process, you will stay in the hobby for a long time and bring a lot of enjoyment to the rest of us who like hanging out.
Yeah. And I suppose, counterfeiting, for lack of a better term, a baseball card is a little easier than a car, but yet people do it.
All the time.
And there are things to look for that someone like me who,
well,
pretty into this thing would never think of, right? Or never know to look for.
Well, and that's one of the things. You have to see a lot of things before you realize what's real and what's not real. But the good old saying, of the 20 Porsche 911Rs they made in the late 1960s, there are only 39 left in the world. And that's that's kind of one of the things that goes on. And there's certain cars that are more prone to it, and certain cars that are harder to do, but it exists. So, it's good for people who are getting into this hobby, who want to get in at a high level, to sort of have a trusted person who can, look at things for them and say what's what. And the thing about me is, I don't sell cars.
Right.
I don't have any skin in the game with any of that stuff. They're simply asking for my opinion, which I'm happy to share it. And whether the car is $10,000 or $10 million, they get my opinion, and the value of that opinion is the same no matter what. And so it's just nice and easy.
You work with a lot of $10,000 cars, right?
No, other than when I buy those for my kids, there really haven't been any $10,000.
Yeah. I think you used the term high level, but I think a lot of this is right in the middle of sort of fuck you money territory, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking cars like Ferrari 250 GTOs, right? This is where you are sort of operating and advising.
Yeah. Well. The thing about me is, a lot of times I will say, look, I am not the expert on these cars. I know a lot, but I'm not the expert. However, there are two experts in the world. I know them both. Let's bring them in and talk to them. And I think that's actually one of the places where why I sort of have a good following is because I'm really good about saying, like, I'm not the expert here. But let's bring in like one of two people. And the problem with some of the experts, I don't think it's a problem, but some people don't particularly love it, is that they are so obsessed with these highly nuanced details that it's kind of hard to get the message of what's actually important there. And I am really good at sort of sifting through that and saying, look, these details are important, but these other ones are the ones you really need to pay attention to. And this is kind of what's what. And, this is actually a good conversation in that it is not binary, like, is this car 100% legit or 100% not legit? Especially older race cars. They have been rubbed up on and crashed and rebuilt, and different things have happened over time. And it's not a question of is it real or not real. It's like, what part of it is real and what part of it is not, and then everything has a value. So it's like, will you pay this amount of money for this car like this, or is the number back to that? And I sort of help them decipher that stuff.
And you've traveled the world doing this. You've gone halfway around the world only to see a car that wasn't as promised.
Several times.
Right? Like how does that work? You show up, and sometimes these cars are being represented by well-known people. Right? Sure. Sometimes they don't necessarily know what they have isn't quite right.
All the time. Yeah. Well, so yes, sometimes I'll show up and things aren't as they're supposed to be. And I try not to be the bearer of bad news to somebody else. That's not really my job. I will often just say, thank you, I appreciate the time and the hospitality. The car is not for us, and I will move on. Every now and then, the circumstances will dictate that I have to say a little bit more than that, and I do, and I try to be gentle, but yet very direct and very honest. I don't beat around the bush, because honestly, kind is clear.
Right.
You know, and like I will tell you things that I see, and you know, sometimes they insist on my giving them a report, and I have to remind them like, I can appreciate that, but you are not my client.
Yeah.
You can go find your own expert
Yeah.
and have them give you a report, which has happened several times.
Yeah.
Nobody has ever, up to this point, gone against my findings.
Yeah.
And they've only, if anything, further doubled down on the things that I have found, which is really distressing to some people who've paid many millions of dollars for cars that they thought were the real thing that were not. And you know, as I like to say, like I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy with an opinion, but my opinion matters sometimes.
And aren't things getting tougher? Because, you know, we've talked about this before. We're both into watches and specifically Rolex and Tudor watches. And I've told you the story about how when I was younger, you know, traveling for work, I'd go to these small towns, I'd check Craigslist and oftentimes find an old 1680 or, you know.
Those are the great days.
Oh, you know, and those, I had to stop doing it because, you know, I almost got burned because things had just gotten so good. The fakes, the weathering of things. And I just felt unqualified. I had to step back. Is the same thing happening in the car world?
Well, this is exactly my point. Where, look, I was the same way. Like I loved. I didn't have a lot of money then, so for me to spend $2,000 on a Rolex was like a ton of money for me. But it's like I could buy one, I could have it for a little while and see it. And if it wasn't the right watch for me, I could trade it in on another one that might be $2,500 or $3,000.
Yeah.
And what's happened is, as you said, all of these things have become so much more sophisticated that now you really need to be an expert to do this. And guess what? I don't really buy Rolexes anymore. Like I have a couple, and I rotate through them, and I would love to buy another one, but I am afraid to go fishing on the secondary market because I am not knowledgeable enough. This is exactly why, like for the point of cars, it's good to have somebody to advise you because if you want to get in this hobby, like somebody has to be there to sort of like lower the barrier of entry so you can come in and enjoy it. Like if I had a person like me tell me with Rolexes, the problem is the Rolexes I would buy are generally not valuable enough to have somebody like me. But that would be great and make it more enjoyable. Also, it's not like if I'm buying so many Rolexes that it'd be worth it. I mean, I might buy one more.
Right.
And so, but your point is exactly the reason that people call me up. Is they're like, I really would like to get into this. It seems really hard to be able to find the right thing without getting burned.
Yeah, and so many parallels, right? Like, you know, that's a service dial on a watch that shouldn't have it or something. You told me the story, and I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but you checked out a car recently, I think on the other side of the world, and it was a homologated car. And you knew that this car, just for homologation purposes, had to have a bumper. But the bumper on the race car was simply tack welded, basically to look like the real thing. You checked out this car, you got underneath it.
Well, that car in particular turned out to be legit.
It did.
That one was, it had the right bumper.
Okay.
So the car you're talking about, I'll try and keep the models out of it. But sent me to look at it. It looks exactly like a normal street car, but there are tells to say that it is a race car. It has a fiberglass floor. So the seats do not mount to the floor because there's nothing to mount to, but you wouldn't tell that. There's actually the frame rails run through and the seats have a special mounting. And it looks just like the normal street version. It's made to look like that because they had to homologate it as the street car. But of course, it's kind of a cheater. It has bumpers. But the bumpers do not go through to the frame like a street car. They go through these little tiny bumper mounts that are tack welded with 3 or 4 small tack welds on it. If you actually lean up against that bumper, it could break off.
That's wild.
Yes, that car, you're thinking of a different car, just to be clear. But that car itself was legit. And I checked it, and those are all things to check for because, and here's a good story. For a long time, those cars sold for the same money as street cars because people could not tell them apart.
Interesting.
And then it's only when people, again, I would say people who are experts much smarter than I, started documenting these. They're like, these are the differences with the race cars. But they had to make them look almost identical because Ferrari ran into homologation issues. It was a Ferrari in the 60s with that.
Is Ferrari sort of like ground zero for fraud, you think? Or is it
Porsche.
Porsche.
Air-cooled Porsche is ground zero. And it's because I mean, 911s were heavily changed, but for the most part, things stayed the same. Door sizes were the same, and parts could mix and match so easily. And then there's so much restoration in air-cooled Porsches that people could take certain cars and make it into another car. And all you need is enough time and maybe the right pedigree of ownership to sort of like whitewash a car to where it's like, well, that guy has a very special blah, blah, blah. And then you go look at it and you're like, well, let me just tell you, this car is definitely not that. But it takes a really trained eye. And again, there are guys way more experienced than me who know what's what. I mean, there's not a lot of them, but they're big guys with big names. And I think one of the problems that's actually really cast a lot of dispersion with this is a couple of the really big Porsche names that people would know have recently got in trouble for fraud because they themselves saw that they could cash in by legitimizing cars that were not real. And I don't have to mention any names, but just do a little Googling, and some big names will turn up that indicted on fraud. And again, one of the things that people will say to me from time to time, like, oh, well, you should sell cars, you know so much. I'm like, the last thing I want to do is sell cars. Like I make money in a whole different realm of industry. I'm happy to just share my opinion.
And I think that's the brilliant part, right? I mean, it'll forever be fun.
Right?
You know, and that's once it starts being business, it kind of takes away, What do you make of all the cars that are just shooting up in value right now? Are they substitutes for NFTs? Like, what's going on? Because there are cars that are doubling, right? Their auction estimates.
Well, that's actually interesting. And because my regular day job profession does involve NFTs, I have like a little bit of relevant knowledge for all of that. No. I actually have a whole different theory that I think is different from everybody else. First of all, I think people are having a challenging time finding places that they feel are worth putting their money. And I'm not talking about people like you or me. I'm talking about people with basically bank accounts where the zeros, go 8 figures. And cars have taken on a level of popularity where before these people would be just purely into things like art or things like rare instruments and things like that. Now we're like, oh, well, maybe there's something to this whole car game, and they're coming in. There's also sensationalism going on with relatively recent cars, and we're talking things like Enzos and 288s and even things like F12 TDFs, and that is bringing things up a little bit because those are cars people see and recognize, and they're like, oh. And where in the art world, like spending $40 or $50 million is not a big deal. They come over to the car world and they're like, oh, I can buy this, or I can buy an Enzo.
So these are people
$11 million.
that historically weren't car people. That
is what I think.
Behind this.
I think they're coming in. And then I also think there's been a vast creation of wealth over the last few years. And people who are car people, and now they've cashed out a certain point, and they have so much cash, they're like...
Younger people.
Some of it is, they've received the money different ways. And they're just kind of like, well, I have all this money. It's not going to affect me one way if I spend, $8 million on a Ferrari 288 GTO. I don't really care. It was $2.5 million just a couple of years ago. I really would like that car. And so I see some things where I'm like, man, that is a car that should be that money all day long, and it's finally getting there. And I see some things where I'm just like, I didn't think that price would be there for another 7 or 8 years, if even then. But it is what it is. Do I think it's going to continue to go like this? I don't think so. I don't have a crystal ball. Crystal ball's in the restoration shop with some of the cars.
A little polish.
It needs a little electrical connector kit to see a little bit better. I think that some stuff's gonna have to balance out. But I also feel like there's a lot of opportunities still. I really do feel there's a lot of opportunities still. And I think as more people come into this and they kind of refine their own tastes. Their tastes are going to manifest in different cars going up that maybe people don't quite realize.
Yeah. The other thing I think is kind of neat is with this influx of young people, they're driving these cars in a way that
Absolutely.
maybe they weren't being driven before, right? And we see
Absolutely.
this in the Grand. We see,
Yeah.
we're both, I think, we're both about 50 years old.
Yep.
But we're seeing people considerably younger than us
Yep.
in the Grand now driving cars that you wouldn't necessarily say, would have associated them with.
No, absolutely.
50s cars.
And let me tell you, God bless them,
Yeah.
because it is like great to finally see these cars being used the right way. Like my co-driver in the Grand, we had a conversation while we were ripping up one of the passes.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you think about bias ply tires for this car, so I can drive it more in the spirit of which the car was made. And I mean, let me tell you, we're driving 9/10.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love that idea.
Yeah.
Of course, it's drizzling and raining
Yeah.
when we're having this conversation. So I'm like, maybe not at this moment, but yes, and like dry. And listen, the cars love it.
Yeah.
The cars don't do well to sit. Every car
Yeah.
in here gets driven, and to me that's an important part of ownership. It's like don't have it and like brag about how low miles are. I will just tell you this, like, I don't have a single great memory about any of my cars that involved it having no miles.
Yeah. Right.
You
Right.
know, like I have a lot of great stories of, let me tell you, like one of my kids and I got in the car and we went up in the mountains and we did this and
Yeah.
we had an amazing day, just ripping down these amazing roads and the fallen leaves are like flying behind us.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I remember that.
Yeah.
I don't remember polishing it in the garage.
Yeah, it's the whole Ferris Bueller thing, right? I mean, it's just, there's no joy in that. And life is short, and we're at the age where we're starting to lose friends
That's
and
right.
car people. And
Yeah.
Did you know Phil Croc GT4, who just passed away, the guy out in California?
Yes. I knew him a little bit
Yeah.
through friends. Yeah, I didn't know him
Yeah.
personally, but
Yeah. And I didn't know him either. We communicated on through DMs once in a
Yep.
while, but he of course was known for putting all these miles on his Sharkified GT4. And his last bit of advice to the rest of us was go and drive your car.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's true, absolutely.
Yep. Well, everything in here has been, made to get miles and made to drive, and I set it up for driving, and I set it for our driving.
Yeah.
For our mountain roads and our trips, and I have luggage I'm not afraid to use.
Yeah.
Like,
Wait, Ferrari luggage you use?
Yeah.
Oh, get out.
I know. Isn't that revolutionary?
All right, so you obviously are a big Ferrari guy. I've never owned a Ferrari. We'll have to own a Ferrari at some point.
Yeah,
I'm always looking at the cheap Ferraris,
Yeah.
of course. Like, should have bought a 360.
Yeah.
Should have bought a 550 when
Yeah,
they
yeah,
were
yeah.
$80,000,
Yep.
right? Now
Yep.
I've been priced out. But what should we stay away from? So for a modest, a person of modest means, such as
Sure.
myself, what are we avoiding? What are we getting into these days?
I'll give you a little bit of both. Okay.
Yeah.
So the easy answer to the Ferrari to avoid
Yeah.
is do not buy the Ferrari that is not for you. And let me tell you what I mean by
Okay.
that, because that is an easy mistake. Ferrari made different cars during different eras for different types of people. And one of the cars that I have is a 512 BBI. It is an amazing car. It is very sporty. It has a big V12. I had a Daytona years ago, and to me, it is like the perfect next car after the Daytona, but it doesn't have that feel of the mid-'80s cars like the Testarossa or a 328 or a 348. It has more of that Daytona type feel, but it can be a little bit twitchy.
Yeah.
You have to really drive it properly, and it takes a certain kind of owner for it. Well, the journalists said this, and it was the fastest car in the world when it came out.
Right.
And
right.
the journalists were like, this car is really fast, and this thing is amazing, but it has no room for luggage, and I can't do this, and my girlfriend can't pack this and that when we go on a weekend trip. And it was like largely criticized by journalists for that.
Yeah.
No problem. Ferrari takes that, and then they make the Testarossa. Now, the 512 BBI is a largely hand-built car. You lift up the clams, you see the hammer marks under the shell. It is just an awesome car in all that respect. You go to the Testarossa, which is, in not all of them, but they eventually became faster than the 512 BBI. And it is a cooler, more comfortable cabin, without doubt. And a lot of these complaints for the 512 BBI, they address for the Testarossa. However, people think that they will buy a Testarossa and they are getting a sports car.
Right.
They think they're buying a Testarossa and they are getting Don Johnson and Miami bikes flying down the Rickenbacker Causeway.
Yeah.
Okay, the Testarossa is meant to take you and your wife or girlfriend and all your luggage, because you can get fitted luggage for it, to the casino at Monaco at really high speeds in the middle of the night. And you can put your hand on her knee and you don't have to worry about it. The car is going to track totally straight and all that. It is maybe not as thrilling as other Ferraris. And if you buy it thinking that you're going to get this really thrilling, really engaging, really dynamic car, you just bought the wrong Ferrari for you. You are looking for something else. And Ferrari was very, very aware of this as time went on. And
it's snowing.
It's snowing now. I know. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Ferrari was aware of this as time went on. And so you have different models that do different things. Unlike Porsche, where every version of the 911 is better than the version that came before it, Ferrari has different cars in different eras that accomplish different things. And that's why I think it's important to really, if you're going to buy Ferraris, to understand what each car does and what it's supposed to do and what it's meant to do and where it fit in their history and buy the right car for you. It is really easy to buy the wrong car for you.
You think there's still some meat on the bone with the Testarossas and the
listen, I love that flat 12 mid-engine layout. I mean, they made essentially two big models, if you call the Boxer and the Testarossa models, and then they made several iterations. There's 3 Boxer iterations, and there are essentially 4 Testarossa iterations.
Right.
So you have the original Testarossa, you have the 88.5 version, you have the 512 TR, and then you have the M.
Break those down if you could. So we all know the original, that was the single mirror.
Yes, the original one is single mirror, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay.
But single lug. They made that through the middle of 1988, and then they made.
We're paying attention to that. That's interesting.
That's true. Yep, and then they updated it with a whole variety of internal changes. The way to really know which one it is you look at the wheels. Everybody can look at the wheels. If it has 5 bolts for the wheels, it is the 88.5 version, which they made from 1988.5 to the end of 91. Starting in 1992, they made the 512 TR. And the 512 TR, they tried to get back to that Boxer sportiness. The engine is, I believe, like a couple inches further forward. It's an 1.5 inches lower, lowers the center of gravity. They reinforced a lot of things with that car. It got more power. People tend to love it because of those improvements in the driving. However, there's a lot of people that think the looks are just different enough than the original TR that they're like, can't do it, I need the original TR. And then the very last version of it was the M. They made 75 US cars, 501 world cars, if I remember correctly. It has a whole series of upgrades, but 2 or 3 very polarizing design features. One is the exposed headlights. The second are the twist 3-piece wheels. And the third, which some people really don't care for and some people don't mind it, so that's why I say it's 2 or maybe 3. The third are the taillights. Instead of having the square Testarossa taillights with the slats, you have these round taillights in the back.
I happen to love it.
Some people do.
And is it kind of like Lamborghinis where you want to buy like a really early car or like a Porsche 928, like a really early car or a very late car?
I'm a big late car person. I have like these cars here. I think this might be the last manual 355 Berlinetta made for the U.S. market. That is one of, I think, the 5 last 575 Maranellos with the FHP made before they went to the Super America. Super America production started right after this car was made. The 360 is the last 2002 car made. Now, they went all the way to 2004, but there's a series of important changes I think happened in 2002. And I, of course, like keep a little file with all the assembly number breakdowns.
Yeah, of course you do.
And then I have one of the last 100 512 BBIs, which actually has a whole series of changes that you can see that's different than all the rest of the 512s. And they're really, and you know, if you actually really study things like Boxers, they improved that thing all the way till the end, and you can see it When you have a restoration guy take it apart, he will show you the wells are different, things are different. They really improved it.
So the 360, let's come back to the 360 because I know you're a big fan. Yours is totally dialed in. They're not quite the quote unquote cheap Ferrari they were 10 years ago when Doug DeMuro bought one for 40 grand or whatever. But it's still a model that comes up a lot with younger people who have a little bit of money to spend. Is sort of the sweet spot, almost the transitional car between like old and new Ferrari and all this. Still one to buy?
Yeah, well, look, I think here's a good classic breakdown. I have 6 Ferraris. 3 of them are Enzo Ferraris, right? The 308 Group 4 car, the 512 BBI, and the F40, which is the last car.
Right.
And then I have 3 cars that are Luca de Montezemolo cars. And I would say maybe his 3 most impactful cars. The 355, which was the first thing he did when he came in. He said, I don't like the 348, which I honestly have to say that is a very popular notion that is misplaced. The 348, if you know what you're doing, and you buy the right one, they are amazing cars, but you have to buy the right one and know what the goods and the bads are.
So that was the real departure between the 348 and the 355.
Yes, and so the 355, they couldn't do a whole overhaul. That was coming with the 360, but they made a bunch of really important technical changes. And the 355, just to be really clear, that is a car that I think people with very, very substantial collections are starting to gravitate to and buying them for their collections, and they all love driving them. And they are maintenance heavy, but again, if you know what you're doing, they're not more maintenance heavy necessarily than other cars, other Ferraris, but they are special. Those I think actually have. I mean, they're a little hot right now, but they have room to get a lot hotter based on how good they are. But so the transition went from that to the 360. The 360 was the first all aluminum construction. It was the first, I call that to be the first modern Ferrari. The size is different. The size of the cabin is different. One of the big things was when they launched that car, it's like, look, you can put golf clubs in behind the seats.
And Americans in the driver's seat.
And that is also the first car that I think really launched Ferrari having wait lists. And it was a combination of 2 things. One is, Luca was like, this is the car you can daily drive. He really pushed that. And then the second thing about it is it also came right at the height of the .com boom, where I think all these people had lots of money and they could do that. This is the car that's essentially launched waitlists for Ferrari, in my opinion. It is a fantastic car. People have slept on it. But let me say a couple of things about the 360. It is the last iteration of the engine architecture that began with the Dino. Okay, the Dino is a V6, but it is the same architecture from the Dino all the way to this. For the 430, it's completely new engine architecture, and it's really the 430 is really maximized for the F1 transmission, like flywheel, all these things. This is, and mine's a manual from the factory. It may be the best manual transmission made into an engine of all the Ferraris.
Really?
Yeah, it just works. Everything flows perfectly. It's a beautiful feel to it. It's really great. I think manual 360s are incredibly underrated. And when people are talking about paying $1 million for a Challenge Stradale, but yet you have manual 360s that are 200, 225 for 25,000 miles. Like I think that is a bargain. Now I will tell you a couple more things about it. What they did with the Challenge Stradale was amazing. It is an incredibly engaging car, a real sense of occasion, really well built and well made. The big shortcoming is it doesn't have a manual transmission. Now people now will buy them and do a conversion. I did the other with this car 10 years ago. I think I bought it 12 years ago now. I bought it. It was a manual 360 with literally, it had 3 options. It had fender shields, colored calipers, and a CD changer.
Key option.
Right? And I'm like, this is great. I'm going to make this into a Challenge Stradale. Well, the owner before me owned one of the Challenge teams, and he had put a couple cool parts on. Not that many, but I was able to source all the Challenge Stradale parts, all the body parts, the rear deck lid with the Lexan, all of that stuff. It has Challenge seats in it. It has a full carbon fiber interior, including the door cards from one of the Le Mans Racing F430 GT cars, which fit right in this thing. And I've lightened it by a couple hundred pounds. Lightened by a couple hundred pounds. It has center lock challenge wheels
It's
on
awesome.
it.
Yeah.
Yep. And so I didn't really change the car as much as take off things that were stifling its personality.
Sure.
Right? So by removing the weight and putting a few more race-oriented parts on it, it really woke the car up.
Right.
And you get an extreme sense of what this car was meant to be and what it does. And people say, oh, how come you don't have like a 997 or, whatever Porsche? I'm like, well, I have this 360. And if I don't know what the day has, I don't know who we're meeting or where we're going or whatever, I take the 360 because it could do anything.
Yeah.
It has 380 millimeter giant Brembo brakes on it. I've done track instruction in this car, and the car has never even had as much of a
just works
about it. Yep.
Just works.
I have done 1,000-mile road trips in this car with an old girlfriend who was completely comfortable the whole time. That is actually a real barometer.
Yeah.
And had a great time. It has been up and down the coast. It's an amazing car. I think as time goes on, it'll be appreciated more. But the two cars that I think really have a lot of room are then they're back to back. The 355 and the 360 have a lot of room.
Yeah.
And the other car that I think everybody is just the most insane bargain right now is the 575.
Yeah.
So for years, I had a 550 Maranello, and I sold it a few years ago. And when I wanted to get back into Maranello, and I was kind of going back through all my notes, I was like, man, the 575 is a much better built car. Two things hold that car back. The standard suspension holds it back. It's a skyhook suspension. It's kind of floaty, not that good. And then the F1 transmission. I will have to say, as far as single clutch F1 transmissions go, this works really well. However, the FHP suspension completely transforms the car, and it really makes it better than the 550 in handling. So now you have better handling and a more robust, really more well-built and capable car. And then for the manual transmission, well, there are a couple places that will convert it for you. This car was not made for F1. If you look at it on the lift, it has everything for the manual.
Interesting.
And so it's a very easy conversion, much easier than a lot of other cars.
Interesting.
And yet, 550 Maranellos or 250 for exceptional ones in good colors. The same car in a 575, a late 575 with FHP is like mid ones at best, 140, 150, and it is a sin. It should be they should be more than 550s.
It's the Ferrari bargain.
It is the bargain right now, and I don't know how long that's going to last. But I bought mine at a great time in life, and I bought mine with 12,000 miles on it for a bargain.
It's a hell of a car too, but more of a GT car.
But more, I would argue it's much more sporty than a Testarossa.
Interesting.
Or even a 512 TR.
I don't think a lot of people know that.
Because, and Ferrari didn't communicate that super well, right? And I have a whole theory on the suspension and all that. I think when the 550 came out, you had these guys getting out of their Testarossas. And you got to remember, if you walked into a Ferrari dealership in, let's call it 2001, you could have chosen a 360 with a manual transmission for probably somewhere around $120,000, or for double the price of two 360s, you could buy a 550 Maranello. That is a different buyer, right? And it was typically an older gentleman who had a Daytona, who had, maybe a Testarossa, and I want a V12. This is the V12 I want, and they got in it. And man, that car is a sporty car. It had a spherical ball mount suspension, the 550, and they got in this thing and man, this thing is way fast. I mean, it was almost a 200 mile an hour car. The 575 is a 201 mile an hour car. And you had tons of power, about 500, 485 for a 550, and 515 for a 575. And I think these guys are like, this thing is way too much car. Well, Ferrari heard that. They softened it
Yeah,
for the 575.
yeah.
You got the softer suspension.
Yeah.
But then people who came for the sports car got on saying, like, this thing's more of a touring car.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Ferrari's like, well, here's a Fiorano handling package, which, by the way, is stiffer than the HGTC package, which came after.
Really?
That has 19
Really?
millimeter sway
Really?
bars. This has 21
Is that the
millimeter sway bars.
599?
It was available on the 575 as well.
Okay.
Very late 575s could get it. 599s had it.
Okay,
On the
okay.
599, it's called the HGTE.
Right.
The E stands for Evoluzione.
Right.
And an FHP equipped 575 is an incredibly sporty car, but yet also incredibly versatile.
Yeah, yeah.
You can put luggage in it, and you can go for a weekend in the mountains with your favorite.
So maybe
other
a
person.
good first Ferrari.
Listen, at the prices today,
Yeah.
again, like people sleep on them,
Yeah,
and I think that is a bargain. But all three of these cars,
Yeah.
I think are relative bargains, especially compared to what you mentioned earlier. The price of some of these cars just going through the roof right now.
Yeah, yeah. And again, this is knowledge gleaned only, through years of ownership.
It's very- yeah.
And,
It took me a few. I don't really sell Ferraris,
Yeah.
but it took me going through a few Ferraris to figure out what was right for me and
Yeah,
what
yeah,
I really
yeah,
like to
yeah.
gravitate to. And kind of like like this garage is sort of a black hole, right? Like a car, like a Ferrari comes in it and it doesn't get sold.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
yeah.
it's with me for life, and I like going all the way.
You don't even have lifts in here yet, but
Yeah,
you
well-
get the. Well, listen, I know we have a hard stop in 5 minutes. Let's do a quick speed round.
Go for
you.
it.
Okay, so you are a Ferrari F40 owner.
Yes,
Best Ferrari ever made?
yes,
Yeah.
best car ever made.
Best car ever
As
made.
I would like to say, if God made a car and put it on the earth, this would be it.
This would be it. All right, that's all we need to know.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, someday I'm going to bug you into driving yours. But
Sure.
all right, what do you think about the cheap Ferraris out there, the Mondials, the 308 GT, was it 4s or whatever?
GT4?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Real quick things on it.
Yes.
The Mondial 3.2
Yeah.
is one of the best cars ever made.
And that's when they flip the engine around, right?
Nope.
No.
That is the
before.
T. That is
Okay.
the T.
Ah.
That is the T, which has a 348 motor, and then the
Okay.
engine comes out for a major.
Okay.
The Mondial 3.2, especially if you get the coupe, is one of the best cars ever made.
Interesting.
It is ultra reliable, like
Yeah.
a 328. It is very easy to maintain. Very simple things like Bosch Cage-Electronic
Okay.
parts, and a lot of easy to find parts.
Yeah.
It is a great driving experience. Has a slightly longer wheelbase
Yeah.
than the 328
Okay.
of the time, and people sleep on it. That is a bargain.
Yeah.
A really great one that was all redone by Steve at EMC Motor Cars in Phoenix. Just sold on Bring a Trailer for I think 39 grand all in or something like that.
I've always liked them.
They're great cars. The GT4 is also a great car.
Okay.
However, you got to remember a couple things about it. It is a carbureted V8.
Yep.
It is the first V8 Ferrari. It is the only Ferrari of this kind of more modern era designed by Bertone.
Right, which I like.
Yep, which is really cool. The Euro ones are awesome because the bumpers are great. The US bumpers are not my favorite thing. Harder to retrofit Euro bumpers, but they are also awesome cars.
Yeah.
There was a guy in Naples a few years ago. He has, I think, since retired. His name is Al Iarardi, and his business was strictly Ferrari. And he did world-class restorations on GT4s.
That was it.
And when you saw a GT4 done by Al brought to market, it was beyond reproach. And honestly, he did more for that model than anybody's done in the entire lifetime of that car.
And I think that's one of the hits in those cars. Generally, you see one, they're kind of rough, right?
Yes.
But people who know, like
Yes.
Jason Camisa owns
Yeah.
one, drives one, talks about it. And okay, so
And you can get them in amazing period correct colors.
That's right.
Marone.
that's right.
I mean,
that's right.
it's
Terrible
cool.
taillights. One of the worst Ferrari taillight designs of all time. in my
Well,
opinion.
because they came off of another car. Take a look at a Lamborghini Yalpa. And see the
Ah,
taillights look
right.
like.
Another oddball favorite
Yeah,
of mine.
yeah.
But that's true. Okay, last question. You mentioned Bertone, and then we got to run here. 2 minutes. So big mistake when Ferrari stopped working with Pininfarina?
Oh man, that is above my pay grade to answer. But I'm very partial to the Pininfarina
Yeah.
cars over the cars that came later. For a variety of reasons. Ferrari makes different cars now for a different customer.
Yeah.
I think Ferrari has gone from a sports car brand to a luxury brand, and they have gone to clients. And listen, they have a responsibility to shareholders now and things like that, and they have to make cars that sell. And they have decided that they are going to make cars for people who want luxury products, and they want to basically tell the world that they are a luxury buyer. And it's different than the quirky old guy like me who
Hey, watch it.
drives around his old Ferrari.
Yeah.
And if you ask me, well, how often do you change the belts and how do you check the oil and stuff, I can tell you all of that stuff.
Yeah.
I think the new guy, if you ask him, how do you know what the oil level is in this car? He's like, well, if the dash doesn't come on and tell me, I just let the dealer do it.
Screens in, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, I know we've got to bounce, but thank you from a man who knows, Ryan Sabga. Appreciate you, appreciate your friendship, and appreciate your knowledge.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
my
All right,
pleasure.
we'll do this again soon.